passes. Item 11, Mayor and Council Member Communications, brief reports on conferences, seminars, regional meetings attended by Mayor and City Council, award updates, and announcements of upcoming events. Councilman Davis.
Just want to send out a reminder, this coming Thursday, the 6th, 2 community meetings dealing with city issues, but it will be in Ward 4, one at the Victoria Springs Seniors Apartments. It'll be in their clubhouse. It's at 2 o'clock. That's on Adams and Lincoln. Anyone welcome to attend that. Also, community meeting that same evening, Thursday again, at 6:30, Orange Terrace Community Center. We will talk about issues such as Measure A and various others, and any pending issues before the City Council to get advice from the people in which I work for and see what direction they think that we should be going on certain issues. So please come, free cookies and coffee. It's always a lot of fun, and you also get to know your neighbors.
Councilman Gardner.
And unfortunately, this is an announcement of meetings that are canceled and will be rescheduled. We had 2 meetings scheduled on April 8th and April 22nd to discuss possible disposition of 2 downtown parcels that were former redevelopment agency parcels. Those meetings have been canceled and will be rescheduled in the future, but I cannot give you a date at this point. But if you're planning to go on April 8th and or April 22nd to the old downtown fire station to talk about those parcels, don't bother, because there's not going to be a meeting.
Councilman Perry.
Well, a couple thank yous. After our last council meeting, we were actually contacted by Channel 7 News, who wanted to do a story on Homefront at Camp Anza. And Channel 7 came out and did about a story that lasted about 2 minutes. And I want to thank Councilmember Melendrez and especially his father, Andrew Melendrez Sr., who came out and represented the World War II vets and provided an interview. And lastly, I would like to thank Christy Smith. This is probably, I think, your last meeting as our interim city attorney. I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for your professionalism. And I want to thank you for all the great work you've done on behalf of me, myself, my colleagues, and the residents of Riverside. So congratulations for doing a great job. We appreciate it very, very much.
Councilman MacArthur.
Yeah, great job, Christy. It's been a pleasure serving with you. Just a couple of series of events that we're having through our Grow Riverside effort. The first event is what is called a Greenbelt Forum. It's actually specifically for residents of the Greenbelt. We want your input regarding the Greenbelt itself, what you'd like to see as far as active farming going forward, some of the challenges that we have. We're having the forum at the Sunkist Center at the Citrus Park. It is April 22nd. It's 2 weeks from Wednesday, tomorrow, from 6 to 8 p.m. We would love to have your input. Also, on May 16th, we have our final Dining in the Grove series. As of this morning, there was 19 seats left out of 60, so I would assume that this will sell out probably by the weekend. So if you go to growriverside.com, you can find out information about the Dining in the Grove series. I did see that our new city manager, John Russo, signed up. So I think this is in Ward 1, Councilmember Gardner, so you might want to attend if you're able to.
It not only is in Ward 1, it's not all that far from my house.
Well, good.
It's you may find me there.
Very good. We better hurry, though, because it could sell out quickly here. And then, of course, our Grow Riverside conference, June 11th, 12th, and 13th at the Convention Center. The last day is a community day. That also will probably be sold out. We're over 100 registration. We're way ahead of last year. So go to growriverside.com to register. If you want to find out about how to set up your own farm, how to plant a community garden, how to set up your own garden in your backyard, there's a lot of good benefits from Grow Riverside.
Councilman Subaru.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to point out that I've been receiving a lot of positive feedback, and I know I've heard from a few of my colleagues that have said the same thing regarding our decision to move the boards, commissions, and the city council standing committees into this very chamber. You know, I look at it that it's the people's house. We have the availability to broadcast live as well as archive and record, or record and archive actually in that order. And the feedback has been great. I've had a lot of people tell me that, you know, I normally am not able to attend some of the committee meetings, or some of the, boards and commissions, and now I'm able to pick that information up. So I think that's a great step forward for connectivity to our residents and allow them to have even more participation than what they've had. Also, too, I'd like to announce that there is a joint community town hall meeting. Supervisor Kevin Jeffries and me, Ward 3 council member, we're having a community town hall April 29th, that's a Wednesday, April 29th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m., and that's going to be at the Janet Goski Senior Center, and that's at 5257 Sierra Street. That's cross of Streeter, and that's right behind Sears. So if you'd like to come and talk to your County Board of Supervisor about issues such as Register of Voters will be there, Veteran Services, Office on Aging, Riverside County Transportation Commission representative, and Workforce Development Agency, as well as your District 1 supervisor, that's the time to go. And you can also hear from your Ward 3 council member, Riverside Assistant City Manager representative will be there, Community Development Director representative will be there, Code Enforcement will have a representative, as well as RPD and our Riverside Public Utilities. So come on out to our town hall, and I look forward to seeing you out there. And that's again Wednesday, April 29th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Councilman Melendrez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief announcement on this month, April 18th. We are having our 3rd annual Tamale Festival. Again, if we go back a year, obviously the committee really didn't know how well it was going to be. At one point, we thought we were going to be eating all the tamales ourselves. But luckily, that did not happen. We actually had an excellent turnout. The following year, we doubled the size and obviously had an excellent turnout. We've now had double the size again. So it has been an exceptional success for the Old Spanish Town Foundation. And the Old Spanish Town Foundation, what it is, it's a group of individuals that are looking to rejuvenate and elevate the visibility of the Trujillo adobe, which is actually the founding settlement of the Inland Empire. It's almost gone into obscurity, but there is an adobe on the north side of town, and it's out by the AYSO golf course. And, I'm sorry, soccer fields out by the golf course out there. And the family and many of the descendants are looking to elevate that visibility. It's an important part of Riverside's history. It's an important part of San Bernardino's history. It was established about 1840, 1845. Many of the descendants still live here in the area. They are doing fundraising. It's going along very well to create that visibility in the community. And obviously they not only want to keep it in that spot, it's in a county park, very, very small piece of land. It is in the city of Riverside, but again, it belongs to the county. And I think both as a city and the county, we can work together elevating that visibility and also creating that environment that the family would like to see. So that'll be on April 18th, starts at noon. It'll be at White Park right down the street, right after the Veterans Parade on April 18th. So we hope to see you there. And again, it has been exceptional. I remember the second year we had a tamale that was a Cajun-inspired tamale. And it was a combination of Cajun spices, Mexican spices, cabbage, and a variety of other things on top. Extremely delicious. The name of the cafe that won, which I still, when you talk about the cross-cultural environment that we live in, the name of the cafe was the Big Easy Cafe, making these great tamales. So come out this year. You'll have a great time, plenty of tamales, as well as refreshments. So with that, thank you. We hope to see you there on the 18th.
11 to 4, I think it is. After 10 o'clock is the Veterans Parade, and then 11 o'clock Tamale Festival begins at White Park. I've got a couple of items for you. First, 106th annual continuous sunrise service was held on Mount Rubidoux this last Sunday, and thanks to Bryan Park and Global Outreach for organizing, putting that on. 2,500 people or more attended. It was a beautiful, beautiful morning on top of Mount Rubidoux. And this Saturday at early, it starts at 8 a.m. You got to register 6:30 to 8 a.m. is the Walk to End Homelessness event at the Homeless Service Campus on Hewlin Place. More if you Google Walk to End Homelessness in Riverside, that's April 11th at 8 a.m. That's a fundraiser to end homelessness. I'm passing down 2 other items from a SCAG meeting, Southern California Association of Governments, that I went to and representing the city this last week. And you'll notice a couple of troubling, I think you probably already know some of this locally in terms of the transportation infrastructure needs that we have, but at a Southern California level, it's the total 10-year need in Southern California for bridges and sidewalks, curbs, signals, roads is almost $40 billion. 25% of our roads are in disrepair, local roads in failed condition. Under the current funding in 2022, they will be in failed condition. State of repair for local roads now, 6% of our local roads in failed condition. 17% of highways are distressed, 10% of bridges rated as structurally deficient, 18% of bridges rated as functionally obsolete, and the annual vehicle maintenance cost for the Inland Empire due to poor road conditions is $638 a year just because of bad conditions on our roads. So we've got some work to do, and that's what the the Regional Transportation Plan, RTP, and Sustainable Community Strategy, which is a long-range visioning plan balancing future mobility and housing needs with economic, environmental, and public health goals. The RTP embodies a collective vision for the region's future and is developed with input from local governments, county transportation commissions, tribal governments, nonprofit organizations, businesses, and local stakeholders within the counties of Imperial, Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura, which makes up close to half of the state's population. And so there's a process you see on the timeline there, public engagement, and council and committee meetings for both public discussion as well as policy discussion. And we can, I'll be representing us there, but you all are also welcome to join in on those meetings and or via email. And one of the other is an email that I will send you as well, but on the paper copy that I gave you, the most pressing issue is our cap and trade affordable housing sustainable communities program funding level for the communities in the SCAG region, with 67% of our disadvantaged communities in the SCAG region. We have 67% in the entire state, and yet only 18% of the recommended funding is going to our region. So we've got issues there. You can see how you can get involved by talking to your legislators, and the Strategic Growth Council is the body that has significant influence there, and a letter to them and a reply from them. And so just wanted to keep you up to date on what SCAG is doing for us and how they are advocating on our behalf, both in the transportation world as well as the cap and trade world. That brings us to almost 6:30. Councilman Subaru, you got another one?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I forgot one, and I had a number of calls of people saying that they wanted to report like leaky water meters and different things, and they said they had a hard time reaching the city. I asked them, did you call 311? And they said they didn't know about it. I just want to remind everybody, there's a mobile app, 311 mobile app that you can download. It's free. It's pretty easy to find. But if you don't want to do that, just dial 311. Real simple. One call does it all. We've got staff there that monitors this most of the day and into the evening, and if it's after hours, they still monitor the calls, and this will help you to report shopping carts that ran away from home, homeless people that are camping in certain areas that maybe they shouldn't, panhandlers, water leaks, potholes, you name it, report it, it'll go to the right place. Oftentimes, if there's an active panhandler standing in the middle of the road, 311 will flip you over to the non-emergency side of the police department, who will take your call almost seamlessly. So please use that 311 app. 411 for information, 911 for emergencies, 311 for all the other services in the city of Riverside. Please use it. It also logs in the type of call, and all of us on the council are given printout sheets by ward and by city of what the calls are of importance to the public. So it lets us know where we stand on certain issues and what's important to you on what you call in. So just a reminder on that, please use 311. One
call does it all. Councilman Melendrez.
You know, there was one announcement. I just wanted to congratulate the Baker to Vegas team. They had their outing last week or a week and a half ago. I see one of the participants out in the audience today, Chief Vecino. You want to wave your hand?
Did he run?
I understood you run. Did you run, Chief? Maybe you can come up and just talk like a minute or so on that, because you have some exceptional police department runners who have really committed themselves to running from Baker all the way to Las Vegas, and obviously it's a relay where they go from one.
That's right, Councilman. Baker Vegas is 31 years old now. I actually ran in the first race 31 years ago. It's a 120-mile course from Baker to Las Vegas. Each team has 20 runners, and the legs are anywhere from 5 to 9 miles each. It usually takes about 20 hours to complete the leg.
Wow.
In the open division, Riverside Police Department, I believe we were 14th or 15th. And the open division encompasses all of the best teams. Our goal next year is to be in the top 5. So congratulations to RPD. It's something that is done for camaraderie. It's something that is done for sheer competitiveness. It keeps the police officers in shape. They work all year long trying to make that team. So the best 20 runners in the department go, and then there are 5 alternates that also back them up in case they should get injured while they're running.
Sounded like Councilman Melendrez was a proud father, proud papa. Is there a Melendrez on the team?
One of our better runners.
Yeah, thank you. He runs for both of us. But I believe they have over 200 teams that they compete against, 200 departments, and they came in 14th this year. So congratulations, Chief.
Well done, RPD. One more announcement from me. I think you all have already either met or have seen Cheryl Hansberger, my new chief of staff, who's in the audience tonight. And for the public, I want to introduce her and give a little bio about her. If you haven't had the opportunity to meet her, if you wave your hand, Cheryl, want to let you know who she is. Cheryl was born and raised in Riverside. She's a graduate of La Sierra High School. Any Eagles? Any other Eagles? Hey. She earned her BA from Cal State San Bernardino, has a master's in higher education admin from Azusa Pacific. Any Azusa Pacific grads? She has a doctorate in organizational leadership. Cheryl started her career working for Governor Pete Wilson right here in the Inland Empire office. Spent 6 years working at RCC. And for the past 11 years, Cheryl Marie served as the VP, the Vice President of Corporate Development for an international engineering firm, where she was responsible for operations management. Most of her civil involvement has been in the Inland Empire. 2012, she was named Member of the Year for the Women's Transportation Seminars Inland Empire chapter and was inducted into the Cal State San Bernardino Hall of Fame. I think there's another member on the dais that was inducted in the Cal State San Bernardino Hall of Fame, wasn't there, Councilman Melendrez? Yes. So you're on the same wall as my chief of staff there. Cheryl Marie and her husband are small business owners. They own and operate 6 franchise restaurants in 2 different states. You can ask her if you want to know more about her restaurants. The Hansbergers are in the process of relocating back to Riverside and to fully engage in our community. And so I'm proud to introduce Cheryl Marie Hansberger tonight as my new chief of staff. Thank you, Cheryl, for your service to the city. That brings us a little bit beyond 6:33 tonight, so I'll call this meeting in order a little bit late and ask Councilmember Perry to provide the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Would you please stand?
Let us pray. Bless this meeting with your divine wisdom. Help us make the best use of our time and talents. Quiet our minds, still our hearts, and inspire our spirits so we can do right for the residents of this great city. Guide our minds in the spirit of fairness as we move forward with today's task. We ask through your grace. Amen.
One more quick quote and mention, since it is our day of recognition for national service today, and Gandhi once said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And that's what a number of individuals in this room have done for our city. Let me introduce 3 groups tonight that serve our city. The AmeriCorps members with the University Eastside Community Collaborative. Would you please stand to be recognized? the AmeriCorps Vista, who serve with Habitat for Humanity. Please stand and be recognized. Any Habitat for Humanity? And there we go. And is our retired senior volunteer program coordinator, is Don Kuhn here in the room? We want to thank all of you again for your service to our city. And we did have a couple of guests one from the Corporation for National Community Service. Is Greg still in the room? Greg Erickson came and joined us from the mothership, so to speak, in National Community Service, as well as Masis Hagobian from California Volunteers, the state commission charged with overseeing AmeriCorps. So all of you, we want to say blessings and thanks for your service to our city and to this country. That brings us to the formal presentation calendar, I should say. Item 20, I'm going to present a proclamation to Donate Life Ambassador Debbie Morgan for Department of Motor Vehicles National Donate Life Month, which is April 2015. Debbie, if you come up to the podium, I'm going to read no problem. I'll read the proclamation while you're coming up. And then I'll come down and present it to you. We can take a picture with the council. Whereas organ, tissue, marrow, and blood donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need, and more than 123,000 individuals nationwide, more than 21,000 in California, are currently on the National Organ Transplant Waiting List. Let me say that again. 21,000 people in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant Waiting List. And every 90 minutes, one person dies while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic and African American communities, and the spirit of giving and decision to donate are not restricted by age or medical condition, and whereas more than 600,000 units of blood per year are needed to meet the need in California at any given time, and 6,000 patients are in need of volunteer marrow donors, and a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of up to 50 others. And a single blood donation can help 3 people in need. Over 10 million Californians have signed up with the state-authorized Donate Life California Registry to ensure their wishes to be organ and tissue donors are honored. California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's licenses or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. All it takes is to check a box. So now therefore I, Rusty Bailey, Mayor of the City of Riverside, in recognition of National Donate Life Month, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as DMV Donate Life California Month in the City of Riverside, and on behalf of the City Council urge all citizens, all residents, to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, or by signing up at donatelifecalifornia.org or donevidacalifornia.org.
Done Vida.
Yeah, please, Debbie.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey and City Council. We're honored that you would proclaim April as DMV Donate Life Month. And I want to announce that we hit 12 million registered donors. So that's pretty impressive. Let's see how if I can. I wanted to give you a little visual about the size of the waiting list. This is the Rose Bowl. It holds 90,000 people. We have 122,000 people on the waiting list right now, so imagine a third more than that. And these are some statistics of the waiting list in the United States, 123,000 with 22,000 being in California. That's 20% of the waiting list, almost 20%. And breakdown of the different ethnicities that are waiting. We have 8,000 Hispanics. Oh, I forgot my glasses, so I can't read them all. 5,000 white, 2,500 African American, 4,200 Asian, and 325 Pacific Islanders. Southern California, One Legacy has 8,000 people on their waiting list. They are the organ procurement organization that works with all the hospitals in Southern California. And some of you may not know that Riverside Community Hospital is a transplant center. They transplant kidneys and pancreas I myself had a liver transplant in March of 2008, so it's 7 years old now. My donor was a 20-year-old young man who lost his life in a car accident. And I'm a One Legacy ambassador. I'm the regional lead for the Inland Empire, and we do community outreach in the city. We are partners with the DMV, and we attend health fairs and the Mission Inn Walk. We had a table event there. These are a few pictures of some events that we attended. Our big event of the year is coming up April 25th in Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton. It's the Donate Life Run Walk. Last year we had over 12,000 people there. It's a family festival with vendors and food, and we have a donor recognition ceremony where we release doves, so you're all invited to attend that. And the proclamations that we receive from the cities all over Southern California go on a wall that we display at the Run Walk. This is a picture of some of the mayors that attend as VIPs. Another big event that we have to spread the word of organ donation is the Rose Parade Float. This was our 13th year. I was honored to ride the float last year. Riverside Community Hospital, her representative was unable to be here tonight because she had a death in the family, so I'm going to try to say a little bit about the hospital. They do honor their donors through various events during the year. They have a tree of life in the lobby that they put the names of the donors up there. We had a flag-raising ceremony on April 1st that will be flying the entire month of April to honor the donors. So Riverside Community Hospital wants to remind everyone that April is National Donate Life Month and celebrate it. Please consider making a difference for the 122,000 people waiting nationwide for a life-saving organ and over 1.5 million tissue transplants that happen each year by signing up to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Currently, there are 22,000 individuals in California waiting for a second chance. Due to the lack of donors, 18 people die every day waiting. Take a few minutes to register. It could mean a lifetime to someone else. And I want to thank my donor for being a hero and allowing me a second chance at life. So if you could sign up at donatelifecalifornia.org or donevitacalifornia.org, you don't have to wait until you go to the DMV to renew your license. Thank you, Mayor Bailey and City Council.
Thank you once again, Madam Ambassador Debbie Morgan. Item 13 is a chance for Police Officer Casey Reed to recognize La Sierra High School FIMS as Inspiring Youth of the Month for April. Officer Reed's coming up. And the Youth Council, of course.
Good evening, Mayor Bailey and City Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm the coordinator for the Riverside Youth Council. which is highly supported by Mayor Bailey and also our Assistant Chief Vecino. We have huge support. It's a wonderful program. I'll let some members explain more about it. We're here tonight. About every quarter, we try to recognize youth within the community. And tonight, they have chosen to recognize the La Sierra High School FEMS group. So I'm going to introduce our Vice Chair, Sophia Lee, and she's going to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about the Youth Council. Sophia?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Bailey and City Council members. Thank you for inviting the Riverside Youth Council to be here to present the Inspiring Youth Award. My name is Sophia Lee, and I am currently the Vice Chair of the Riverside Youth Council. RYC is the city's foremost youth organization that oversees over 25,000 Riverside students from 16 different high schools. RYC is dedicated to promoting involvement, leadership development, and community engagement to Riverside's high school students. The 29-membered Student Council participates in events such as the Riverside Triathlon, MLK Rockathon, and even creates our own, such as our recent Youth Leadership Summit and our upcoming Most Remarkable Teens. To encourage Riverside teenagers to be involved in city activities and governance, by providing opportunities, this council instills community pride and empowers students to be successful. Today, we are here to celebrate the outstanding accomplishments of the Feminist Club at La Sierra High School, which we have chosen to receive the Inspiring Youth Award.
The Feminist Club at La Sierra High School was created by Ajlan Saforni, Dania Acevedo, and Morelia Rodriguez this school year. The club is advised by Miss Pamela Logan, a math and avid teacher at the school. The 3 students started this club because they felt that rather than sit back and watch the ever-growing sexism of the world around them oppress half of society, they would stand up and try to do something about it.
The club unites both males and females to promote self-worth, independence, and equality within the school community. During regular meetings, the 30 active members participate in Socratic seminars on pressing issues and provide a safe and open place for all students. The club hopes to continue in their efforts to inform and educate people on the importance of gender equality in their community.
Now we would like to present this award to the LSHS FEMS Club.
Thank you, Riverside Youth Council and City Council for this award, and we are truly honored to be receiving it. Sure.
You guys can go right in here.
Future is bright in Riverside because of our youth. Thank you all for coming down, Youth Council. Appreciate your service. Brings us to item 14, Riverside Pride Success Report from Ward 1, Pitt Printing.
Thank you, Mayor. We don't usually do franchise sorts of things for these, but PIP is kind of unique in Riverside, at least this PIP. It was going to work. There we go. It's originally opened in 1968 by David and Eileen Tracy. The first store was at 9th and Orange Street. They were the 12th Postal Instant Press franchise in the whole country. PIP really is inspired, or was inspired, by the then new instant photo plate maker technology. And through the 70s, as our local PIP's business grew, they added employees and expanded locations. In 1972, they moved to Main Street. A little after that, they moved a little closer to 10th Street on Main into the building that's right next to the Provident Bank building, right across 10th Street. And if you go past that building, you'll notice some anti-skateboard metal stanchions that are there that have rain crosses in them. And that's something that Justin Tracy, the current proprietor of PIP, had Bill Gardner, the former city engineer, build for him, and Justin installed them personally. They also had what they called the Annex, which was around the corner here on 10th Street, right across from City Hall. The 1990s brought a real change to the printing industry as more computer-driven and computer-able technologies came in. Justin took over the company in the 1990s, and they have won a number of top 10 sales award from PIP on a nationwide basis. Their success in the 2000s led them to purchase the former Miller's Outpost building at 11th and Market Street and refurbish it to be the current PIP printing business. I don't know how many of you remember Miller's Outpost, but I still have a Coleman stove I bought there. And it still works. They currently have 18 employees, excuse me, and they offer the latest innovations in printing. One of their innovations, and this goes back some time, was printmystuff.com. It was the first online printing ordering capability anywhere in our region, and it's something that they still offer. They have a reputation that they've had for a very long time for quality and customer service, and I can attest to that personally. They pride themselves on printing anything for anyone, and they have a long list of things that they're capable of doing. One of them, down at the bottom where it says more, they actually have this machine that some people still use. It's called a fax machine. And I understand that for a small charge, if you take them a document, they will send it magically electronically over the telephone wires to a similar machine in some other location. And I believe there's a deal to donate it to the Metropolitan Museum in the not-too-distant future. PIP is known for innovation and community pride. They've always been a family-owned company. Justin Tracy is currently serving as chair of the Riverside Downtown Partnerships Board, and he prides himself, and I think his parents before him did, on training people in the industry, and they learn at PIP and then they go on and start their own companies or go into other fields. But Justin regards himself as a true mentor of young people in our city, and I've seen that myself. On the right of this photograph is a brass plaque that is on the side of the building that Justin had created to really recognize his parents and their vision and the family vision of Riverside. And for those who can't read it, I'll read it real quickly. They've renamed the building the Tracy Building. It's dedicated to David and Eileen Tracy and their vision in choosing Riverside as the place to raise a family, live, work, and invest in the future of this community, July 1st, 2004. I think it's interesting because that's on the building where the business is, but doesn't mention anything about the business or what they do. It's just a monument to the family and to Riverside. One of the things that Justin is known for is having brought the first Segway to Riverside. In 2002, he ordered 2 Segways in the first hour that they were for sale online. And he is the proud owner of serial number 300 and serial number 702. And this is a photo of one of them. They've had a number of hardware and software updates since he first acquired them. And interestingly, before he was allowed to actually pay his money and take them away, he had to go down to Newport Beach and take a training class in a hotel ballroom on how to ride a Segway without killing yourself or others. And Justin's Segways are among, he still has the original two. They are among the highest mileage Segways anywhere in the country. Most of the ones of that vintage are long gone, so maybe that's something else we can donate to the museum one day, Justin. So, printing and print my stuff downtown, printmystuff.com, located at 4093 Market Street, downtown Riverside. They really can do almost anything for anyone. And Justin, I don't know if you want to wave at the audience. I know you aren't feeling real well and don't want to come up and talk, but Justin, Tracy? So, great. Thank you very much, Justin.
And it's hard not to mention that I did see a third generation Tracy, my student Sam Tracy, right? So 3 generations now working in Riverside. Tell Sam hi. That brings us to item 15, public comment period. We have several speaker cards tonight, beginning with Turner Stansel and Karen Bowser. I'll separate the two of you for 3 minutes apiece, but it's on the same speaker card. If Karen doesn't want to speak, I'm assuming that you're going to mention April 25th, Vivian Stansel Olympian Foundation, first annual drown proofing clinic at RCC Cutter Pool at 10 to 2.
That's right.
All right, Turner Stansel.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. To you, Honorable Mayor, and to the council. We'd like to invite you to the first annual Drown Proof Clinic. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But it's going to be held, as you mentioned, at the Riverside City College at the Cutter Pool at 10 o'clock on April the 25th, and from 10 until 2. And, okay, the Drown Proof Clinic is held, will help participants and overcome their fear of water. And we'll teach them to float and breathe while in the water, and to teach them some safety measures when they are in and around the water. Okay, the features of the Drown Proof Clinic. Well, first of all, the curriculum was written by coaches, Coach John Ogden and Shelby Hernandez, members of the United States swim team. And they are coaches also at the Ukaipa swim team. And each participant will be given their own float or flotation device or noodle. And we will also feature Dr. Fared Zarif, a doctor who's promoting health and fitness and proper nutrition. So, and the Riverside Fire Department will be there and showing off some of their fire equipment, and we are also providing scholarships for all the participants that can't pay. And so thanks to the Riverside Community Health Forum, who is our major funder in doing that. And we want to thank friends of Chris MacArthur and friends of Mayor Bailey for helping us to support this and put this on, the Drown Proof Clinic. And so that's about all. So come, we just ask you to come and be a part of it. And this is for the general community as well. And so this is our first annual, and we're looking to do this more and more. And so we have about 50 sign-ups, and we're going to have to cut it off at 100 right now, but we're still signing up people.
Awesome news, Riverside. Karen Bowser, would you like to speak as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't mention. Karen was unable to make it tonight, so I had to shoulder this thing alone.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, praise the Lord.
Thank you, Turner, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Marilyn Whitney, followed by Rich Gardner.
Mayor, council. This is my campfire speech because I had no papers with me and I was at the beach for a week. Oh, yeah. It says, welcome to Toxic Trails. AHV Homes and Cox Properties would like to welcome you to Toxic Trails. Move in by fall, be dead by spring. Toxic Trails Homes has all the amenities: skin cancer, kidney disease, thyroid disease, skin rashes, hives, and more. Because we have it all. But wait, there's even more. We can enjoy the glistening of the sun on our very own sludge pond. Have a pet we don't know what to do with? Move in here. It'll be dead soon, along with all your sheep, ham, lamb, ram, mutton, skunk, porcupine, and squirrel. Now we know where to put all those squirrels. But wait, there's even more. Worried about all that extra cost of Mello-Roos? Think you won't be able to afford that college funds? No worries. Your kids will be too ill to attend college. Want to someday to be a grandparent, but worry your kids will not be able to afford growing up, having them grow up, but just bring them here to Toxic Trails, and the reproductive system won't function. Then again, you may have grandchildren that glow in the dark or have a slightly green tint. If you sign up today, we will double your offer and poison your unfriendly in-laws for free. So come on down to Toxic Trails. We are dying to meet you, or is that you will die after we meet us? This is not a paid advertisement for Toxic Trails, but a warning. No one can say I don't have a sense of humor because I live in Ward 7.
Rich Gardner, followed by Teresa Newham.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. I, again, don't have anything written and I don't have anything really clever, but the correct way to say it is, but wait, there's more, so we all know. Anyway, I've been reading some stuff on Facebook about the property at Merrill Street, and I guess there's a lot of confusion as to what's going to be done with it, what the residents want, and the planning for it. And I will again pitch for some kind of a geriatric center there, and I would invite anybody, including the new person in charge of the mayor back there, Cheryl, sorry about that, to come to a caregiver support group and see that there is a true need for this. I've had a discussion with the mayor about how overwhelmed a caregiver can get. It could actually be a win-win situation if you think about it. We could get some training for people in the field of geriatrics that is going to benefit all of you gentlemen, a lot of people in the audience, and I'm throwing this at the new city manager or the interim to pass it along. I'd just like to know how we can start to at least make a proposal on this. And since it's in your ward, Councilman Subaru, I've asked before for someone to give me some input, what can't be done. If it can't be done, fine, just let me know. I mean, I understand it. I understand we have a cooking school over there, and that was a vacant property that was going to be turned over to the state, and RCC somehow got that, and it's going to be a school for cooking. So I don't see any reason why RCC can't take over this land behind Merrill, increase the geriatric training that's needed for our community. And let's face it, that would be a lot of students, teachers eating barbecue at whatever that place's name is, and Blaze Pizza and stuff like that, perhaps seeing a movie, shopping at Trader Joe's. So the businesses across the street, Councilman Subaru, I'm sure would appreciate the extra business. And as I said, as a former caregiver, I know what it would feel like to just go to a movie at the plaza and relax and know that my loved one is being taken care of. Thank you for your time.
Teresa Newham, followed by John Fisher.
Hi, everybody. I would like to say, I want to talk about the donor cards for a minute. We're all donors, but I do want to remind people that when they have someone that needs an organ and they're praying for that person to get an organ, that someone has to lose someone. We lost an 8-year-old grandchild in 2001 who hit his head. And when he saved 4 lives, and when the LA Times article came out, the little girl who received 2 of his organs, the whole article was all about how their prayers had been answered, and not one thank you about our grandson. So I heard thanks today, but I want to remind everybody that when they pray for organs, someone else has to lose someone. So I don't know if God makes those kinds of decisions. I do want to remind everybody on Veterans Day, The Best Years of Our Lives is one of the greatest movies ever made. And the young man without the arms in this movie had never acted before, and he won an Academy Award. And you can purchase it for $8 online. Fabulous movie, and it'll teach you everything about marriage you ever want to know. We also have a potluck for Alicia at Rutland Park from 12 to 3, who's running in Ward 7 on Saturday. And Andy, I'm going to be meeting, hopefully with you, and Mrs. Yeager, and the wonderful woman who came up with the program at Lear's Music, so that we can figure out how to get everybody funded. So thank you very much. And I do want you to know that on March 27th, there were a lot of people at Ag Park when Penny Newman came and the state came. And my grandson filmed a lot. And I've got 51 seconds. I do want you to know that one of the men from the state stayed for a while and let us know that everybody has an agenda, and therefore their feeling is that the federal government needs to come in and do the testing. I also want to say, to respond to the people in the press enterprise who didn't feel that that old people are the only ones getting sick and dying of cancer. That is absolutely not true. And they're afraid for their property values and if they have to disclose. So there's agendas everywhere, but we need to get this taken care of as soon as possible. And just thank you very much for your time, and I love this city. Bye-bye.
John Fisher, followed by Vivian Moreno.
Good evening, members of the Honorable Mayor, members of City Council. This morning I read in the Press Enterprise this morning, front page article, bigger convention center becomes a big-time draw. The renovated Riverside facility reopened a year ago and has brought larger events, more spending, and maybe a new hotel. Guests arrived at the Riverside Convention Center for the Loma Linda University Children's Hospital annual fundraising gala. Were greeted by 3 polo players that stamped and trotted across the building's grassy lawn. How cool is that? Inside, they were dazzled by shimmering gold and white drapery and translucent ballrooms hung high, as well as sequin tablecloths and gold-trimmed chairs. Towers of champagne flukes flanked the ballroom entrance, ready to be filled by ladies in 1920s attire pouring non-alcoholic bubbly while perched from swings suspended from the ceiling. March 12th event was the hospital's best attended gala, drawing more than 1,000 guests and raising $1.1 million. It couldn't have happened before the convention center's $43 million renovation and expansion, officials said. Members of City Council, be proud of what you did. This is a huge accomplishment for our city. The convention center is an awesome project, and you all should be proud of what you did. Thank you.
Vivian Moreno, followed by Karen Doris Wright.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. You know, I've really tried to stay away from staff issues since the beginning of the year. And 30milesofcorruption.com gets little bits and pieces of information about staff. And I thought today, I really decided to take this to the Human Resources Board. But it was canceled at the very last minute. The public wasn't notified. So I decided to bring this here. This may make some of you a little uncomfortable, but this came through 30 Miles of Corruption. I did speak with Mike Subarus about this, and I did want to take it to the board. But they weren't there, so I'm bringing it to you. Here we go. The HR department has now received a federal complaint that it discriminated against one of its employees based on sexual orientation. HR Director Dietrich terminated an employee without cause only because he was gay. 2, HR Director has told her African American employees that she is okay with them because she used to be married to a black man. This is highly offensive and further shows that she is unable to function as Human Resources Director. 3, the Human Resources Director has employees over to her house where she serves copious amounts of alcohol to them and then allowed them to drive knowing that they were drunk. Also, here are new issues that need to be addressed. Carly Myers was recently promoted as an analyst in the city manager's office. Carly has a history of prior inappropriate sexual behavior that she uses to get promotions. When she worked in code enforcement, she had a sexual relationship with past code enforcement manager Mark Salazar and then used that as leverage to get her initial promotion. Allegations are now being made that she did this, again, to get her position in the city manager's office. I know this is really uncomfortable to talk about. I have issues with this. I have written stories about this on 30milesofcorruption.com. I feel that we really need to take a look at this closely, and if these things are happening in any part of the city, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about openly and honestly, because this is an issue, and this costs taxpayer a lot of money, and it needs to be addressed. Thank you very much.
City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd like an opportunity to respond, if I can, about the employee that's in the city manager's office or been promoted. The fact of the matter is, when the city council authorized the third assistant city manager, Mr. Al Zelinka, he merely transitioned some of his staff from the community development department to his now department in the as an assistant city manager. So there were no promotions. There was transfer of workspace from one floor to another floor, but there was no promotion involved. Now, I know, and you know, and the community knows that promotions are not based on sexual favors that has been accused of this evening, and I think to make a statement like that publicly about an employee is so far below the belt. How low can a person go or will go to publicly make those kinds of statements about an employee? Number one, it's not here to defend herself. Number two, has no factual basis for it. Number three, is just totally inappropriate to say that. And I can't imagine why something like that would be said about an employee at a council meeting, a televised council meeting. I can't think of a motivation why someone would want to do that, unless they're just plain mean-spirited. I just can't. Maybe someone else can come up with a reason why that makes sense to do that in a public setting, but I can't. We've had some peace, I think, at these council meetings the last several months. I thought things were improving, but tonight is a new low. Since my time here, since December 22nd, tonight, this is a new low. I don't think I've ever witnessed anything like this before in a public setting. So I will defend the staff. I'll be the first one, if a staff makes a mistake, I'll be the first one there to tell them you made a mistake and correct the behavior. But when someone gets up and assassinates someone's character like just occurred, then I will defend that employee. and I just will, and that's just the way it's going to be. So if more speakers want to come up and say things like that, then I'm going to respond.
Thank you, City Manager, for those comments. Councilman Subaru, would you like to comment?
You know, when I received the phone call, my advice is these are hearsay things, and one has to be very careful. And my best advice to anybody in our audience and anybody that's listening on TV and archived later, if you have any information like this, bring it to our city manager. You know, employee records are confidential for that very reason, that in case some of these things are unfounded, you know, it's just not good business to do. I don't recommend it ever. And again, any issues that I receive as a council member by anybody from the public, and I would assume that my fellow council members are the same way, we would refer them to our city manager, who is in charge of these employees, and bring it up to him to investigate, to look into, to find out if there was any validity to the claims. Very, very important that that is done that way. And I think, Mr. City Manager, I think you said it best.
Councilman Gardner.
I'd like to thank the city manager for his comments. I think it is important that people do as Councilmember Subaru suggested. If you have a complaint about the behavior of a city employee, there's a process in the city to raise that complaint, and there's a process to investigate the complaint and take whatever action is appropriate. To come into a council meeting and say those kinds of things about a city employee is uncalled for, below the belt, and disappointing.
Councilman Davis, it's time to listen.
I've been here 6 years, and I tell you, I've been through a lot. To the speaker, I'm shocked. This person, let's just say it's not true, which I'm hoping that it's not. To call someone out by name, I mean, you subject yourself to a lot of liability. The fact of the matter is that that person has a privacy in their labor, and the city manager and the employer will handle it. To come here on public television and to do that, in my 30 years in finance and handled a lot of different employees and stuff, I've never seen that ever. Even when you're in private industry, it's just, that is unbelievable. So let's be professionals here. Unless you have hardcore evidence, you don't bring it to us. You bring it to the city manager in a private setting and let them investigate and deal with it publicly. I mean, would you want that to happen to you? And it may not even be true. And it's just shocking. So I would ask everyone be professional. If you have an issue with a city employee, follow the protocol. We wouldn't want to go out on the streets and just start yelling things, oh, somebody did this or that, or slept with this person or whatever. That's pretty serious. That can actually damage a person beyond what you understand completely, because this is now on tape and it's also on the internet, and whether it be true or not, that's really unfair to that employee and those individuals. I'm sure the city manager will look into it and report back to wherever he needs to, but he's the administrator. We hire him as our CEO to do the job that he needs to do, and I support that. But I'm really beside myself. As an employer, that's shocking.
Karen Doris-Wright, followed by Jason Hunter. Jason Hunter, followed by Karen Doris-Wright, followed by Rachel Sterling.
Hello, good evening. Jason Hunter, Ward 1. According to the Press Enterprise recently, over $15 million was spent on outside legal counsel in the past 5 years. It's over $3 million a year. Where was the oversight? Our charter states that the City Council shall have control over all legal matters. I'd like to know when you, our elected officials, authorized over $15 million in expenses. When did you vote on this? We know that much of the work was done without contracts. These expenses often did not take place even in the city attorney's budget, but in other departments such as public utilities and public works. So my question is, who's been minding the store here for the last 5 years? Okay, it was supposed to be you. We know that there's other expenses outside of legal expenses out there. There's investigatory expenses, which have something to do with legal matters. There's private investigators. There's, I'm sure some of the legal expenses were not categorized as legal expenses, but investigatory expenses. There's settlement expenses. There's actually what you paid out when you lost lawsuits. That's the cost of doing a legal business in the city. You haven't even captured it with this $15 million. And you guys had no oversight or control over it. You basically left the city attorney with a blank checkbook, and he spent over $15 million just on legal costs in the last 5 years. Shame on you, okay? Now, we're going to do an audit of this, and it's good, and it's overdue, and we're finally, and I was shocked to find out the city attorney's office, in the 12 years the previous city attorney was there, had never even been audited internally, not once. The entire time he was here, that's unheard of. Okay, so it's going to finally happen, and we're going to get to the bottom of how much money was spent, inappropriately or illegally even. And my question for you is this, and hopefully we'll fix the policies going forward. My question for you is this: where's the accountability amongst the staff? Now, a lot of times what I see around here is by the time the public finally forces the council to take action, the staff has taken off. They've gone someplace else. They never really bear any accountability for their actions. And hopefully at the next government affairs meeting, we'll discuss the inappropriate conflict of interest that exists between the general manager of our public utility and the Chamber of Commerce. And it shouldn't take years and years and years to make these changes or to get to this information. And this information came out of the press enterprise. It wasn't even from the audit. When stuff is inappropriate, we should go after and attack it. That's your job. That's why we elect you and put you in these positions. But hopefully we don't see this type
Karen
of
Doris
activity
Wright,
again.
followed by Rachel Sterling.
First, I want to address your complete attack on Vivian Moreno. If you would have listened to her, she was reading an email from one of your employees who is terribly uncomfortable with the situation here. If you had decent legal counsel when all this was going on, there is a huge case where inappropriate sexual relationships were occurring and promotions were occurring, and it was huge liability for the state because the other employees were like, you know what, I'm not willing to do that. So do not get up here and tout your almighty I am just appalled. This is the First Amendment. If you don't like what she has to say, step down, okay? And Mike and Paul, you were the only two that were doing anything right. You're telling us to follow process. Look what happens when we follow process. Should we follow the same process when they went after you two? Was that proper process? Was what was done to you, Mike, fair? Was that fair? Is that the process I should follow? The one you went through? I don't know. From this end, it didn't look too fair. So I'd say your process doesn't do jack for anybody, okay? So your employees are telling Vivian, because they can't tell any of you because you won't listen, that they are uncomfortable, that they believe people are having inappropriate sexual relationships and that they are getting promotions above people who should be getting them legitimately. It is a real concern. There is case law right on point, and a huge settlement was paid out. So wake up, okay? The other thing that really upset me is, Mike, you asked us to slow down. Okay, we are already at a snail's pace. I am sorry that your staff of 2,000 cannot keep up with our intellectual ability of a handful of people. Perhaps you should not fire your best and brightest, and you could keep up, but you can't, because you get rid of anybody who has a brain, okay? You know that. You have ratified that process. It continues to occur. You continue to get discrimination lawsuits. Mr. McDougal, I've told you over and over about what's been going on in HR, how incompetent your staff is. This alcohol and this comment about African Americans came from somebody who is in the HR department, okay? It didn't come from Vivian. So, I mean, there is quite a history at Montclair. I think you are somewhat biased in your opinion here, okay? So let's not go there. We don't judge people when we have walked in similar shoes potentially, okay? So your people are telling you, we are uncomfortable. Do something about it. And we are going to continue to come here. And we are not slowing down. I'm sorry if you can't keep up. We are in full speed ahead.
Final speaker for this evening is Karen
Lots
Doris
of
Wright.
articles
Karen
coming on
Doris
30
Wright,
miles
please
for
come to
you.
the podium. Thank you very much.
I haven't started speaking yet. Please turn the time off. Karen Wright, Ward 3. I'm reading from the Springbrook Heritage Alliance and Friends. And they're including the Springbrook Arroyo, Springbrook Falls, La Loma Hills, Save the Places We Love, Trujillo Adobe, Riverside Golf Course, Abrown Sports Complex, Pellicer Ranch, Blue Mountain, Santa Ana River, and Elliott Springs. They would like to eventually have the Springbrook Parks, and it includes all those areas. But this particular Springbrook Heritage Alliance is about helping saving the Northside neighborhood heritage. Stop the monster warehouse. Petition drive is underway. Here's the problem. A developer has proposed to build a 308,000 square foot warehouse across Placentia Lane from the Brown Sports Complex. This is City of Riverside Planning Department planning case P14-1033 and 1034. It would be so big you could give every man, woman, and child in the city of Riverside their own square foot to stand on and still have 4,000 square feet left. It's probably 8 or 9 acres of warehouse size, but it would not be big enough to trigger a public hearing, an environmental impact report, or notification of the property owners with 1,000 feet, unless there is an appeal. If the developer completes his application for a permit to build, there will be a 10-day period to file an appeal. The filing fee will be $1,500. We plan to file an appeal. Then, when we do, we want to attach our petition. Our goal is to collect at least 1,500 signatures before the 10-day period begins. Only we don't know when that will be. It could be very soon. There is a meeting about this warehouse and other such matters. April 16th, it's a Thursday night, 7 o'clock at the Francis MacArthur Room, Ruth Lewis Community Center, and this is on 701 North Orange, and this is in Riverside's North Side neighborhood. And if you didn't get that, call me at 951-204-3252. I am also handing in an 18-page document that addresses the threat assessment team that you have targeting whistleblowers, the no delegating council responsibility for legal contracts, and I have Letitia's letters and other letters in this document. This will be in the backup, and this will be in the backup to item 15, public comments tonight. And if
that brings public comment to a close.
There is a meeting
Thank you for your comments. That brings public comments to a close. Please sit down. That brings your public comments to a close.
I'm sure
Please
you
sit
won't
down.
public announce it,
I
but
would
you should.
ask you to sit down before
There is this
we ask you.
There is this meeting tomorrow. Are you going to public announce it?
Ms. Wright, if you had been here and listened earlier, you would have heard that I announced that that meeting was unfortunately canceled.
That brings us to the discussion calendar item this evening. Item 16 is a water quality control plant rehab and expansion phase 1 update. Looking for Tom Boyd, our Public Works Director, to provide the presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. This item is an update, an update we give every 6 months to the City Council on the rehabilitation and expansion of the wastewater treatment plant. As Council may recall, back in June 19th of 2012, City Council awarded a contract to PCL Constructors for $192 million and change to rehabilitate and replace portions of the wastewater treatment plant. It's also it's intended to modify and improve the processes to help the city maintain compliance with our regulatory requirements and expand the treatment capacity from 40 million gallons a day to 46 million gallons a day. At the time of the contract award, City Council authorized a 6.5% change order authority, which equated to approximately $12,500,000. Staff working with the contractor ultimately issued a notice to proceed to the contractor on September 12th, 2012. The contract called for 811 working days, which put the original completion date in December of 2013. Currently, the anticipated completion date is June 2016, and the reason for that delay is the excavation of 6,000 tons of hard granite boulders that were in the way of the equalization basin and some primary tanks. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Right now, at the end of February, the project was about 77% complete. The majority of the structures and the facilities have been constructed. Just about all the steel and concrete's been poured. Currently, the contractor is working heavily on installing equipment and the various components in the plant. Through February, there have been 59 extra work items identified and resolved with the contractor. They total about $2.6 million, or about 1.3% of the contract. $1.7 million of that approximately included the excavation of the 6,000 tons of granite boulders and the associated delays. To give you a little more insight into the changes of the contract also included $3 million in allowance items for unanticipated underground obstructions and so forth. To date, we've spent about 50% of that. We spent about $1.5 million, so the $192 million contract is actually reduced by $1.5 million. So we're actually down less than 1.3% of the contract amount. I want to show you some pictures, show you before and after of what the plant looks like now and what it looked like a couple years ago. This first picture is an aerial shot. This was taken after we completed an early clearing project. As you remember, we did an early project which demolished a series of structures, graded the site, and got it ready for construction. This was after that first project. This is what it looks like today. The most prominent feature in this picture is the equalization basin. That is a 10 million gallon basin. It's split in two. One half of it is for diurnal fluctuations in flow. The other half is for stormwater. And the reason we built this structure is currently the plant operates, we constantly adjust the flow through the plant depending on flow fluctuations, normal flow fluctuations in the sewer system, and for infiltration during storms. With the implementation of the MBR and trying to run the plant in the most efficient manner, it's always more efficient to run the plant at a steady state, constant flow through it. So the 5 million gallons of this basin that you see on the right is for daily changes in the flow. The 5 million gallon portion you see on the left portion is for stormwater flow. We're not allowed to discharge any stormwater from the plant into the river. What we do now, if a storm overtaxes the plant, we store the water over by Van Buren Boulevard and then in the former sludge drying beds, and then we pump it back through the plant and treat it as capacity dictates we can. This gives us formalized storage for that area. Here's another view of essentially the same area, but I want to draw your attention to the 4 tanks in the center of the photograph. If you go to the after, you see the 4 tanks in the basin. The tanks are now covered. Those tanks are primary treatment tanks. You'll see them. They are, let me see if I get those. I know I had the size of them. But they're for the primary treatment. They're about 1 million gallons apiece. This is a shot of the equalization basin before construction started. And here are the boulders, the famous boulders. These boulders ran underneath the equalization basin, and also the tanks that I pointed out, they ran directly adjacent to those tanks. We literally dug on both sides and above them in the preliminary contract and never found them. If you look at the size of some of those boulders, if you look at the excavator, and if you can see the man standing there in his yellow shirt, you can see the size of those boulders were quite large. We had a seam of those boulders. Contractor ultimately spent 22 weeks excavating those boulders and reducing them to a manageable size. Here's a picture of a boulder. Initially, the contractor, in order to reduce these in size so he could pick them up with the equipment, haul them off, tried just mechanical means, hitting them with hoe rams, trying to shatter them like you would most rocks. The granite was so hard that really resisted those methods, so we ended up bringing in a contractor who would drill holes in them, and we'd fill the holes with chemical bentonite, and the bentonite would expand and split the boulders. It turned out to be the most efficient way in the long run to handle those the boulders and get them split down to a manageable size. And the process is very similar. We've all seen rebar rust in concrete and the expansive force that rusting rebar has. Bentonite has the same type of force and able to split these boulders. This is a picture of the floor of the basin being formed, the steel and being formed into panels. The basin was actually formed in dozens of square panels to accommodate the expansion and contraction of the concrete as temperature changes. This is a picture of essentially the completed basin. The basin's probably about 95% complete, finishing work on the pump stations associated with it. Another major element are the anaerobic digesters for the solids handling end of the plant. You can see the before picture on the left, and then the excavation for the two digesters. We call them digesters 3 and 4. We're not very imaginative, but that's what we call them. Here's a picture of the, on the left, picture of the walls being formed, and then of the completed digesters. The digesters are 48 feet in height and 90 feet in diameter. They hold about 2 million gallons of sludge, or biosolids. These are also about 98% complete. If you notice the brick building in the right-hand picture, that is the pumping and control room. That's essentially what's left to be completed before these digesters can be put online. Another major component that you'll see, we saw them in the photograph, and if you drive out there, are the clarifier tanks for the MBR process. The upper picture is the beginning of a construction of a clarifier tank. The small concrete ring you see in the beginning is the center of the tank. The clarifier tank on the bottom is a completed structure, and the truss structure you actually see is a roof. If you look back in the aerial photographs, all our tanks are uncovered. To comply with our air quality permits, these tanks need to be covered in the future. So what the trusses are for the cover of the roof. And then I put in a picture of the MBR being constructed. This is the tank, actually. It's constructed, and what you're looking at is the roof of the tank, the cassettes that hold the actual filaments that form the MBR will go underneath the structure. This is the first of 3 phases. They're getting ready to install the cassettes in probably the next couple of weeks. Another component necessary is a new aeration basin where we inject air into the wastewater to help it to help the chemical processes. This aeration basin is 135,000 cubic feet, holds just over 1 million gallons. And the picture on the upper left is being formed. The lower right is in a pretty much complete state, and you can see the air diffusers in the bottom of the tank there. This is a picture of our fine screen facility. The MBR facility requires pretty clean water to go in it because, as you recall when we talked about that a couple years ago, the pores and the filaments are very fine. So this is a facility that do the final screening of solids before it goes through there, the MBR. And then this is our FOG station, fat, oils, and grease. As some of you may recall, years ago, the plant did a pilot project. We called it Grease to Gas, where we took waste grease from restaurants and we would inject it into the digesters, and that chemical reaction that happens in the digesters produces quite a bit of biogas. What we had built before 10, 12 years ago was a kind of a temporary homemade plant. This is a more formal plant with more capacity for the process. And also, since in the past 10 years or so, the grease to gas process has become pretty heavily used in the wastewater industry because it does provide significant gas increase in production. And the gases, we talked about it a couple weeks ago in terms of the new fuel cell. This is going to help produce the extra gas for the fuel cell. And with that, I'll close my presentation and be available for any questions.
Several speaker cards on this item, beginning with Vivian Moreno, followed by Rachel Sterling.
I just have a couple things to say on this item. But first, I want to remind you that what I say here on this podium for my 3 minutes is mine to say, whether you are shocked by it or not. And let me tell you, I get shocked by the decisions that you make up here all the time. And let me tell you, great, great, great performance, Tom. I'm really happy with the work you're doing there. I do want to mention that. Good job. Okay, another thing is that there's a real reason that I did not go to the city manager with this information, because I know the Jackie story. And you guys don't know it. So let's not talk about that this is really low, okay? We need to all look at our own self first. And this came from your staff. And I have been up here
Please speak
talking
to the
about
item.
your staff for a long time. Thank you very much.
Rachel Sterling, followed by Karen Doris Wright.
Be very careful interrupting, Rusty. Anything that wastes money is applicable to any project because it can be spent on that project. You should know better. What I find particularly interesting is that Mr. Boyd has not shared with you. How are those bonds, by the way, Mr. Boyd? Any issue with those? I've been having some very interesting conversations with some of the community service districts, the underwriters, because what was really interesting to me is when Gary Valadejo just poof, was gone one day. I was like, oh my God, wow, what happened? Oh, I knew what happened, you know. I've been through it, you know. Mike's been through it, but he wants me to follow that same process. But I said, you know what? I want all those boxes because his office was packed up in like one day because some of your employees shared that with me because they share lots of things with me because they won't share them with you because they don't trust you. So I said to Public Works, I want every one of those boxes delivered to a conference room so I can look at them all. And I did. And because I do have the superior intellect of, you know, the people you fire, the ones with the superior intellect, I went through every one of those boxes. I found the most amazing documents that use words like the sole purpose of the MBR is so that you can sell water. Not so. We all know that treating sewage, you know this, Tom, come on, is really different from a reclaimed water as an end use, okay? There are totally different filtration processes, okay? I know this because of my, again, intellectual superiority. And because I'm so weird that I love sewer and I love public works, and that's why Tom didn't want me there because, you know, I actually am not ethically challenged, which appears to be something that's a requirement to work for the city of Riverside, or at least that's my opinion. But I'd say 3/4 of the cost of this project is so you can sell water. And there are beautiful memorandums from your consultants that say just that. And I've given all of those to the community, to Harupa, to Rubidoux. And what I think is really interesting is that now in your bond documents, you say you don't know how the litigation's going to turn out. Remember those original bond documents? I think you used language like, we're very confident. I think it was either you, Mike, or Chris, one of you said, oh, we know we're going to get our money. We know we're going to sock it to those community facility districts because we're the city of Riverside and we can do whatever we want. No. Because you have really intelligent people in your community, like myself and Jason Hunter, who have all this time to flex our intellectual muscles, which are much bigger, obviously, than your entire 2,000 staff, according to you, to do what's right and to keep you from continually screwing your constituents and screwing the constituents in other areas. So,
Karen Doris Wright,
think
followed
about
by
that.
Teresa Newham.
Well, first, I do want to say to Mr. Boyd, I want to thank him for having backup documents, having some layout maps of what's there, putting some photos, having some budget information, saying what percent of budget, what percent of the project was completed, and how that shifted with the additional work. So I think that was a good thing, because in the main, Riverside has a practice and pattern of not providing information in the backup here, especially for many important items like the strategic plan, for example. You know, like what you're doing with your congressional people. You don't put anything in writing for a lot of these different things. Anyway, one thing I was curious about, and I'm totally ignorant on this subject, but there was, what, 6,000 tons of boulder, granite boulder. Is granite something that can be sold or ground up or used? Is that something that's a resource that is used in road work or can be used for ground cover for center medians if it's squashed up? Now, you may look at me silly, but when they redid the plaza, all the concrete, which may not be as hard as granite, that was taken down, the contractor put a big pile, mashed it down, and reused it when redoing the plaza. So I'm wondering, was that 6,000 tons of boulders? Could that have been a resource? I just wonder, when you finished the Magnolia Avenue grade crossing, there was a lot of dirt that was left to lift up where the lumber yard used to be. And that's a lot of money of dirt left there. I don't know who was given or who bought that property or who that went to. But I'm just wondering if that's a resource that could have been used in some way. And I have to back up whatever Rochelle says about the cost of projects and that sort of things, and about the litigation, re the water in Harupa Valley. I believe every word that she says is true and accurate. And then while we have nice charts and drawings, that you are shafting the citizens of Riverside in order to be able to profit. And maybe you're shafting the citizens of Harupa Valley as well. And I don't think that that's good or the right thing to do. Citizens should only be paying for the cost of getting water to their houses. We shouldn't be paying for the new development costs, including at Ag Park. And by the way, in Ag Park, you should never have passed the Community Facilities District, because we should not be responsible for the toxic waste and everything. And it should never have been passed before a public hearing was held. And thank
Teresa
you for
Newham,
talking
please
over
come to the
me,
podium, Teresa.
Rusty, because you're always so rude.
You can leave that there.
Just leave it there? Okay. Okay. I was fortunate enough to go to the interviews for the Public Utilities Commission. and I liked the questions that were asked there, and I'm really impressed with the man that we brought on. And I do have to say that I have a lot of respect for Rochelle because I am unsophisticated in the law, and she is an attorney. And she certainly knows how to speak, and so does Vivian. But I don't agree that, and although I think they're very smart, and that Jason Hunter is very smart, that their intellect is more superior than a lot of people that I have met that work very, very hard in the city. And even though Paul doesn't think he's very smart, when we put everybody together, there are an awful lot of smart things that come out of the city. I just think everybody works so hard that they can't take a look at everything. So sometimes it's good when we have people that come and point things out that maybe we need to take a look at. But I do want to say that I know that we all need clean water, and I hope that we're not shafting anybody, and if we are, we need to rethink that, because we all know that we need clean water, and we all know that we're in a drought. So I want to say, and Tom, I really thank you for your presentation. It was really good. And granite is a resource, so maybe in the future we need to think about granite because it is a wonderful resource. And so I'm for this project, and I want to thank you very much for letting me have this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Jason Hunter.
Hello, Jason Hunter again, Ward 1. I don't know much about sewer treatment facilities. I don't know. It looks like a good project. From what I've heard, we need an upgraded, improved sewer treatment facility and infrastructure. I'm hoping that somebody certainly wiser than me in these decisions has decided that this is a good project and it's cost effective, and I hope that's the case. I do know this, is that it seems to me, the perception is that a lot of this technology was installed so that we could get a source of non-potable water. And I'm for that, by the way, because I think we should be looking to increase our water supplies within the city and increasing room for growth perhaps even within the city by increasing our available potable water by increasing our capacity of non-potable water. It makes a lot of business sense. It makes a lot of, I don't know, just environmentally it makes sense. We're using that water which otherwise goes down the Santa Ana River. Here's my issue, and it seems to be an issue that just keeps on cropping up over and over and over again on so many different topics that I bring before either the boards or commissions or the city council. It's this. It's that the people who pay the costs should be getting the benefits. Okay? It's pretty simple. So if the sewer customers are paying the cost in order to get this new source of recycled water, they should be getting the benefits. And if the community service districts are paying the costs in order to install this technology, in order to increase our water supply, they should be getting some of the upside and the benefits too, okay? Let's not screw over our neighbors or beggar our neighbors. I don't think that's a long-term sustainable policy. That's the perception I have that might be going on here, okay? And it goes beyond the sewer and this project. It goes into so many other policies and practices I see at the city where it seems like the general public is forced to pay for these projects, but special interests get the majority of the benefits. I think that needs to end. That needs to be a practice and a policy of old Riverside, and we need to move on to something better in new Riverside. Thank you.
It brings public comment to a close. Councilman Adams?
Mr. Boyd, what are the benefits that the city, I know we have, this is expanded capacity. How far into the future do you anticipate this to take us?
Well, that's a very good question. It seems to be a changing topic every day with the water shortage. and what impact the drought's going to have on our wastewater system. You know, we've spoken before about the impacts of conservation have already had in the flows into the plant. From a hydraulic capacity.
Sorry, Tom.
That's okay.
Keep going.
Great explanation. Thank you very much.
We have very sufficient hydraulic capacity. We're running about 30 million gallons a day now, which is down from about 33 to 34 million gallons a day 5-6 years ago. The current drought situation and water conservation isn't going to drive our flows up much. So we have sufficient hydraulic capacity. You also have to measure a wastewater treatment plant like this by its loading capacity. How strong is the wastewater? And as we see our flows go down, the wastewater strength goes up, so we may not have a true 46 million gallons a day of hydraulic capacity. When I mean hydraulic capacity, that's just how much water can we pour through the wastewater treatment plant at a design strength. So, but we think we're good for quite some time. The technology and the systems we put in are going to be good for 40 or 50 years. The question is, will one day we have to add on to it? And right now, I'm not prepared to give you an answer if that's 10 years from now or 20 years from now. But the technology is sound, and the equipment is going to be there for another 40 or 50 years. You know, much of the equipment was 40 to 60 years old already.
Right. And the thing is, projecting beyond 20 years, with the technology that is changing so rapidly in every category in industry, we have no idea what's going to be available to us and able to take care of these things. They may happen right at the house or whatever. So to get a 20-year lifespan in today's market is outstanding, because we have no idea what the future is going to bring, and technology is going to change everything that we do. So I think we've done a great job here, and I move to receive and file.
Motion to receive and file. Councilman Adams, second by Councilman MacArthur. Councilman Melendrez.
Tom, just a very quick question. In terms of what we've done to the treatment plant, how much of that is based on state regulations? I mean, obviously, we need to keep up with some state regulations. Can you share more information on that? Or
I guess everything we do is driven by our discharge permit. In terms of state regulations, you know, the plant was meeting our discharge requirements before we started this project, and it has continued to meet its discharge requirements with all the changes over the past 2.5 years. The staff out there has done an excellent job, along with the contractor, to make sure that happens. But, you know, in November of last year, the state tightened our permit restrictions on what we can discharge, what strengths we can discharge. And we know that's going to happen again in the future. The question is exactly what are those changes to our permit going to be when it's up again in about 4.5 years. The systems and the upgrade are necessary so that the city is in a position to meet those requirements. And, you know, even though I've stood before you and others have told you that the MBR provides very clean, recycled water, it's not the only reason we put it in. It provides the flexibility for us to meet
interrupt
the increasingly restrictions on our discharge in the future. So the other thing is, when you build a facility like this, you don't always use technology that's 50 years old. Our cars aren't built on technology from 30 years ago. We're continuing to look. MBR system is getting to be normal in all wastewater plant expansions and construction projects now.
You know, one of the challenges that you have, it would appear, with the water treatment plant is not only Riverside's growth, but the growth of the surrounding communities. Obviously, out of this treatment plant, we service some of the other cities, and they continue to grow as we do. What can you tell us about that? You spoke a little bit about that with from Councilmember Adams' question. What are the anticipated growth for our surrounding communities? And again, if we were looking at 20 years, what kind of investment are we going to be needing to make in 20 years? And I know it's really difficult to estimate, but this particular upgrade was very expensive. And any upgrades you make to a water treatment plant are extremely expensive because of not only the construction, but then you have the environmental constraints that, you know, continue to grow and require more of a water treatment plant.
So when the city completed its wastewater master plan in mid-2000s, we looked at the build out of the city. We looked at the community service districts, what contractually we're obligated to provide in terms of treatment capacity, what they thought they're going to send us in terms of wastewater in the future. Because especially for one of the community service districts, we're not their only treatment option. They treat wastewater at other facilities. And we came up with a plan that said, first, let's expand from 40 to 46 million gallons a day, and then expand from 46 to 52 million gallons a day. And we'll see that 52 million gallons a day is probably ultimate build-out. Since then, we've seen our flows go down through conservation, not only from us, but through the community service districts. In terms of what's next, the original plan laid out 7, 8, 9 years ago called for rehabilitating what's left of the plant. You know, we have actually 2 plants out there, Plant 1 and Plant 2. They're both 20 million gallons a day of hydraulic capacity. We did Plant 1, which is the oldest, and we did part of Plant 2. So at some point in time, and I can't tell you if that's 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we need to go back and finish Plant 2. Plant 2 is somewhat newer. We're also, so at some point, I think that project was estimated to cost about $40 million back then. I don't have a current cost estimate for it. I doubt it's changed a whole lot over the past few years.
Right, thank you.
Motion to receive and file, looking for a vote. And I'm assuming another 6-month update?
Yes.
Looks like June 2016 is the final target date for a completion, but so we'll have a 6-month window in between for an update.
We're anticipating essential completion probably in early 2016.
Beautiful.
Contractor has until June.
See you in 6 months. Thanks, Tom. Motion carries unanimously, which brings us to consent calendar. City Manager?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on your dais is a revision of item number 23. If I can draw your attention to that, on the first page of the staff report under item number 1, the last line, it says 3 additional 1-year amendments. That the word 3 should be 4. And on the contract itself, there were a few changes. I think our printer had a hiccup and put in the wrong number for the contract. I think before it said $122,000 plus. The total number should be $142,100.
You talking about item 23?
I'm talking about item number 23. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's all I have, sir.
Pass and move to approve the consent calendar.
Motion second on the consent calendar. Looking for a vote, which is unanimous to approve the consent calendar, which brings us to Mayor, Councilmember Communications, Legislative Report. I think I look into our General Manager of RPU to provide an update in response to the Governor's emergency drought declaration and the State Water Board's meeting today.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Girish Balachandran, General Manager of Riverside Public Utilities. On April 1st, Governor Brown declared a drought. He issued an executive order, the first time in the history of the state of California such an executive order has been issued with mandatory restrictions on drinking water usage. I'll give you some highlights. Essentially, what he has directed agencies to do is reduce potable water use by 25%. He has directed the State Water Board to take actions to develop regulations, and these regulations will be we had the first meeting with the State Water Board today, or rather, they had the first meeting today. They will be providing their draft regulations on April 17th, and on May 5th or 6th, they will adopt rules that will be implemented starting June 1st. So he's looking at a period between June 1st and February of 2016, a 9-month period where he wants us to achieve a 25% reduction in use, us meaning the entire state, a 25% reduction in drinking water use compared to 2013. As of today, they've come up with a regulatory framework where about 1/3 of the 400 large water suppliers in the state have to reduce by 20%, about 1/3 25%, and 1/3 35%. So it's a sliding scale depending on how communities and water agencies have responded to his call for voluntary conservation last year. As you remember, you took action last year, 270-day action, which ends April 28th of this year, moving us into the next stage of our urban water management plan, water shortage contingency plan. We reduced our days of watering from 7 to 4. We had other restrictions. We've increased our rebate programs, our turf replacement programs, and at this point, I need to acknowledge we have John Rossi, who's the General Manager of Western Municipal Water District, in the audience here today. John and our city work very closely together. We met earlier this morning. He's here as an expression of support to show that we're working together on these issues. We have many departments of the city: general services, community development, code enforcement, legal, public works. We have Tom Boyd here. Working together, we've created what we're calling a drought action team to come up with responses to this order. So far, over this last year, we have taken a lot of actions. In looking at this, we're going to need some more time to digest what the state board comes up with. We'll work with our partners and our stakeholders to come up with some actions that we'll bring to our Board of Public Utilities and then to you. Right now, we have slated at our April 17th board meeting, we'll be providing them an update and an outline of potential actions we can take. April 28th, we'll be here in front of you to do a similar kind of presentation. If we are ready to make some recommendations to you, we will. But given that the state board is expecting to issue their final regulations only on May 5th or 6th, it's probably going to be in May that we actually come to you with some recommendations. In summary, this is a new normal. This 4-year drought has hit California extremely hard. It's very different from the droughts of the 70s and of the 90s. Our population has grown since then, and so we are getting our hands around it. It's not just us at RPU, and it's every other agency up and down the state. So we're going to get through this together. It's an opportunity. We're all looking forward to the same thing of using our water efficiently, making sure that the needs of our community and businesses are met satisfactorily.
Thanks, General Manager, for coming down and giving us that feedback. It sounds like it's a good news, bad news situation. And the good news is there's a response from our residents, right, in terms of conservation. And so the education works. So I think staff needs to be commended, and that collaborative approach with Western has had an effect. And I think we've had some incredible projects and turf replacement and otherwise that are best practice projects in the city. And so thank you for leading this effort and for collaborating with our partners and as well as internally at the city, right? This affects our quality of life in the parks, right? Through economic development, Office of Economic Development, Public Works, we heard that tonight. And so I think we need to continue to take that collaborative approach in responding to the state's situation as a city in the state of California. And so we got to thank our residents, right? The residents stepped up and did their part in conservation. And so there's work to do. and time to do it. And thanks to RPU for bringing this to our attention and looking for some more conservation education in the future. Several council members have some questions. Councilman MacArthur.
Thank you very much, Garish, for the report. Also to John Rossi, I appreciate you being here also. One of my constituents, Director Tom Evans from Western, was not able to make it tonight. He and I talked on the phone. He would like to, and joining me, obviously, continue to work with Western to find how our staffs can work together. I know Councilmember Davis and I sit on a committee with Western and RPU, and I'm sure he'll speak to that also, but I think we need to continue to work together to find efficiencies as we go forward. Last year, I don't know if you have the final numbers, but based on our ordinance from a year ago, do we have any idea of how much we were able to reduce our consumption?
I have an approximation right now, so I'm going to caveat that. I'll have better numbers I'll provide to you a little later. But just the July through December time frame of 2014, so July is when the ordinance that you passed actually took effect. Compared to 2013, it's close to 7%. So it's good. There was some response. We were looking for 15%, and going into this 25% regime, we need to be thinking really outside the box. This is significant. This is a big deal.
Thank you very much.
Your comments, Chris. I would add that in terms of working with Western, but I think it's an opportunity for us to sit down with the Board of Public Utilities too.
Yes.
Potentially in a joint session where we can brainstorm and have a conversation with them. I think that you've mentioned that in the past, and I think the council listened to them, but they might look at that as an opportunity to have some more dialogue on this dire situation that we're in. Councilman Perry.
Thank you. I saw a news report this morning that said during the month of February, statewide water conservation was at about 3%. And I know as we go through our individual wards right now, I think as we move forward, we need to find the tool to expand the educational aspect towards it. Because I think there's a lot of people who are working towards saving and conserving water, and at the same time, I think there's a lot of people who plain just don't know about it. So I think we need to look at another approach, maybe thinking outside the box, as was previously said, to get the word out there. Because I think that'll work wonders. And we also have to be looking at the people who are conserving water. If we're going to be looking at whatever percentage we come up with, whether if it's the 25%, how do we balance that with the people who are doing it right now? So things to think about in the future. You probably already have done that.
I'm going to be in front of you a lot. We're going to have.
We appreciate your presence.
There's going to be a lot of dialogue. Mayor, I appreciate you having the board, city council, have a joint meeting. Water is one of the many issues that we have on our plate. Councilmember Perry, you've raised some of those issues that are on our plate right now. We really need to address those. It's multidimensional. All the tools in our tool belt have to be brought to bear for this.
Here we go. Like you said, a new normal, a new day.
Right. Thank you.
Riverside is ready for the task at hand, for the challenge. Item 33, City Attorney. Oh, Councilman Subaru, did you have that for item 32?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I didn't know if you're going to mention anything about Mr. Singletary tonight.
Item 33, City Attorney Report. We can do that at the end.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. For item number 5, the City Council has authorized the City Attorney to initiate litigation on behalf of the City of Riverside. Once the litigation is formally commenced, the names of the defendants and other particulars will be disclosed to any person upon inquiry, unless to do so would jeopardize the city's ability to effectuate service of process on one or more unserved parties, or that to do so would jeopardize the city's ability to conclude existing settlement negotiations to its advantage. To the remaining items, there is no reportable action, and if I may thank Councilmember Perry for his kind words earlier, and to the City Council, thank you for your confidence in me in this interim period. I appreciate it, And I look forward to working with the new city attorney and continuing to work with you in the future. Thank you.
Well said, Christy. Item 34, items for future consideration. Councilman Subaru.
Thank you, Mayor. My item would be, I'd like to move forward probably to Governmental Affairs Committee, starting out, I think, if it's the right committee. Review of policy pertaining to sponsorships by the city through various departments for events, seminars, organizations, meetings, things like that.
Are you talking about the semi-annual sponsorship program the Development Committee oversees?
No, this would be just, day-to-day sponsorship at different meetings and sponsoring tables or however we do what we do. I think it's time that we review the policy and adjust if necessary and
City Manager, you
make any
clear on that?
recommendations.
Yes.
Governmental Affairs, accept that? Governmental Affairs Chair, accept that?
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Councilman Davis.
Yeah, a few weeks back, Girish or Balajandran, I think I said the name right, had mentioned to us that the RPO boardroom was being renovated. I was not familiar with that, but I'm curious as to if you can share with the council very quickly how much the renovations cost and what are we doing?
Is that an item for future consideration?
Well, I
request,
don't know if
or
you can
should
do
we
that now.
talk
I'd
about
like
that?
to see that. And then the second item is I'd like for the Finance Committee to take a look at the RPU water funds reserves, cash holdings, and investment pools for both water and electric. Take that into consideration and see how much money we have sitting there in reserve, restricted or unrestricted, because I understand it's a lot of money, and I'm kind of curious as to why, because the ratepayers, want to know, and I want to know. I'm a ratepayer, so I'm curious about that whole thing. So, and then the third item is I want to bring up. I know we've had this go to the voters. We really need to take into the government affairs a consideration, a strong consideration, as a fourth appointed municipal officer as an auditor controller. We really need that. We don't need a charter amendment. We don't need to ask people. We, as the council of 7, we can simply just do it, and and we don't need to take it to any kind of a charter. So I think we need to have that discussion as for consideration of we need to be very forthright with the people that we represent, and we talk about we want to be transparent. This is about as transparent as we're going to get. We need that person to report to the council and to the audit finance committee exactly what's going on without having to report. No disrespect to the city manager, but it relieves the city manager from having that onus above their head that is always going to be accusations, and I want to just dispense with that. I think we should consider it.
Councilman Melendrez.
I did have a question. The item that you wanted to bring to the governmental affairs was which one?
A discussion and consideration for a fourth appointed municipal officer as an auditor controller, reporting to the city council.
I think that one might be best directing it to the entire council rather than having it just be heard by a committee of 3. I mean, that's just my recommendation, I think.
Well, the ideal is with the government affairs is to vet it and then bring whatever recommendations, good, bad, or ugly, to the city council for discussion and consideration.
Yeah, I don't mind it coming to council, to the governmental affairs. I just thought it'd be best that it be held here at council. Now, going back to that, just for clarification, at one point, there was a ballot initiative to have an auditor, how to have an auditor's office. That unfortunately was not successful, but that's not what you're asking for. You're just looking for one person to
Well, no,
to handle that?
we did have a municipal, the item that came before the folks some 4 years ago was exactly that. But the way in which it was written, many people understood it that was going to be an elected officer, and this is the feedback I'm getting from the constituency. So having said that, I think that we need to really consider a fourth appointee. Again, I'll say it again, we don't need a charter amendment to do it. We have the authority under the charter to create an office and reports to us. We don't have to do that. So I'm thinking that we should really consider that strongly going forward as our city grows, our municipal finances grows. We need to have that extra security that we can report back to the folks in which we represent, that everything is above board. And that way, if we mess it up, we're held accountable and not so much having to put the onus on the city manager's office. Not that it's intentionally going to happen, but we're a large city. We're the 64th largest in the country and the 12th largest in the state, almost really about the 11th. We need to act as a large city rather than the small city we have been functioning under, and we're getting there, and I think this is just the next step.
Governmental Affairs Chair accepts that with the caveat of making sure that we have the background information of the previous charter amendment sent to the voters.
Right. Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that we weren't discussing that, because obviously that did not pass, but wanted to get a clear idea. Sure, we can bring up. Let me ask the city clerk, how are we doing for agenda items at our next governmental affairs? Because I know we've been taking on quite a few things, so we can get some sense on when we will be hearing that.
I think your agendas are lightening up a little bit. You're catching up, so there should be time in the next 1 or 2 meetings to include that when the report's ready from the city manager.
Okay, yeah, if you could kind of let us know, let me know when we're going to be hearing that, and kind of get a better, clearer idea. Thank you.
With no other items for future consideration, I will, Councilman Melendez.
I did have one more, one item, Mayor. It's obviously not as, doesn't seem to be as involved as a lot of the finances, but one of the things that we've been working a lot on in our East Side community through our HEAL Zone, which is our healthy eating, active living, is re-education of eating habits or drinking sugary drinks. We've had Rethink the Drink in our community. We have our healthy program here at the City of Riverside. We're Fit, Fresh, and Fun. We have our HEAL Zone, and we've even gotten a grant from the county to help us eat healthier. But you know, there's always been an issue with sugary drinks. In our Park and Rec, what we've done with our vending machines, at least in the east side and parts of other side of Riverside, we've gone to either flavored water or water itself. What I'd like to bring to governmental affairs to maybe take a look at the possibility of adding a sticker to the vending machines, making individuals aware or educating individuals on the sugary drinks, and doing that. And I'd like to bring that to governmental affairs for further discussion. And when we have time, it could be 60 days, it could be 90 days before we could bring that.
City manager might be able to take care of that before 60 days, but I'll let him tell you.
Yeah, we're not talking about just on vending machines for Park and Rec, but other vending machines throughout the city.
Understood. All right,
Great.
council
Thank
has
you.
that. Any other items? Seeing none, we'll adjourn this meeting in honor of the city manager's mother, Lillian Joyce McDougal, as well as our longtime resident Riverside, G.W. Singletary. Meeting adjourned.